You know what people are great at? Avoiding their problems. Maybe it's time to talk to someone before you make the evening news, and not in a good way. That's where Rula comes in. They're making high-quality mental health care easy and affordable. And the best part, they take most major insurance. And the average copay is just $15 a session. Go to rula.com/random and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who does care. Use code RANDOM at nakedwines.com and you get 6 bottles for just $39.99. 6 bottles. At that price, even your least favorite dinner guest will get a refill. The Club Random team cracked open a bottle of their Pinot the other night after recording. The review is in. Velvety, lush, and delicious. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles at nakedwines.com/random and use the code RANDOM and password RANDOM for 6 bottles of wine for $39.99. Today's episode is sponsored by Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics is a fan favorite amongst the Club Random team. They're not exactly college-age kids anymore, so bouncing back the next morning can be, well, kind of rough. Trust us. Gulp down some Z-Biotics before you go out, and you'll thank us the next day. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Head to zbiotics.com/random and use the code RANDOM at checkout for 15% off your first order.
What would you say to a white person?
What do you mean?
Don't order that pumpkin spice latte. Get out of here. Whatever that thing is. We're talking about a man running for president that has that sensibility. It's just,
okay. All right, I give up.
It's disgusting.
I said my piece.
I hear somebody.
Rob.
I hear a voice that I recognize.
Your wife's already mad at me.
What for what?
She said, you got a great place. I've never been invited here. Which is I've been to your house.
Yeah.
I just don't have, when you're a bachelor, you don't really have dinner parties.
I know.
You say it with such sympathy.
Well, I used to be.
I know.
At one point in my life, never had a party when I was, never did that.
Well, not that kind of party.
No.
When you're single, you tend to pal around with single people. And when you're married, you have couple. In a relationship, you have couple friends.
Exactly.
It's just.
And when you have children, you gravitate towards couples that have children.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're wearing the Spinal tap.
Well, I'm doing it's shameless promotion.
I've had half a chubby ever since I've heard that this is coming out.
Oh.
I mean, I am one of a legion of people who have been waiting for years for a Spinal tap.
You've been waiting 41 years.
I understand.
Nobody's ever done a sequel 41 years after the first one.
It's great that they're all still here.
Yes, it's a plus. It's a plus. Although we have a bit in the second one, which I hope you'll see at some point.
Oh, first day.
Yeah, and there's a bit where the guy who's a promotion guy says to them, listen, it will help your legacy if at least one of you were to die during the concert. Because
so true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best career move anybody ever made.
Right. And and then of course they say, well, Chris, as Nigel says, well, I don't want to die. And then McKean, as David says, will you settle for a coma? And he says, ooh, well, that's very good thinking outside the literal box, actually.
Oh, that's fun.
So what are you drinking here?
That's tequila.
Yeah.
This is sparkling water.
Yeah. And is that your drink of choice?
Yes. I mean, and this is Jing, which makes the sparkling water into diet soda without chemicals.
Really?
Yeah. I'm very into health. And that's why I drink
No, I know
liquor.
You are. I know you are.
You look very svelte.
Well, I'm trying. I'm getting older and I don't want to.
It's a smart thing.
I'm
trying. It's a smart thing.
Yeah.
But, you lost the weight but your face looks great. Some people who are heavy, they lose the weight and they look bad because
I have a fat face.
It's good. It didn't happen to you.
Yeah,
you
and
just look healthier.
The other thing a fat face does is it keeps the wrinkles.
Yes.
The fatness takes the wrinkles away. Yeah,
it's not all bad being a fat face.
No.
But can I ask you an inside?
You can ask me anything you want.
Okay, baseball question.
Sure.
What percentage, I mean, you just told me a really hysterical scene from the movie. Was that written? Was that all in the script? Is that part?
No script.
No script?
No script.
All that?
Both movies, the first one and this one, all the dialogue is improvised. Now, we did have we had an outline, and we knew where we were going to, where the tour was going to take.
Right.
We have a basic outline, but every bit of dialogue is improvised. And this is a good little story. So when we did the first one, we put a billboard, chalkboard, whatever. If you had an idea for a scene, you put a card up. Harry Shearer, who plays Derek, he was dating a woman who worked at ABC News at the time. And do you remember Roger Grimsby?
Do I remember him?
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Because I grew up local New York.
Yeah.
He was Roger Grimsby, Here Now the News.
Okay.
That was his catchphrase.
That's right.
Here Now the News.
And so I don't know how Harry got a hold of him, but he had a stack of promotional cards that had a picture of Roger Grimsby on the front, and the back was empty. So if we ever came up with an idea that we thought, this could be a good, interesting idea for a scene, we'd say to each other, does this warrant a Grimsby? In other words, should we put it up on the board? And the second time we did it, the second movie, McKean comes in with a stack of Grimsby. So that's the way we do it.
That is a name that, if it wasn't his real name, someone would have had to invent it.
Yeah,
it's just perfect.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting. The way you just described making the movie, no dialogue is written in the script.
Right.
You just have this outline.
Right.
You invented that, apparently. That's not, I think people think Curb Your Enthusiasm was the show that started that.
Yeah.
Apparently, you're talking about 20 years before.
Yeah. This is in 1984.
That's your method.
Yeah, and what's interesting is people have asked me over the years, they say, it's your first film. Why would you you make a film that has no script? There's no... And I said, that made more sense to me than the other way, because, if you what Chris Guest used to call schnadeling, when you schnaddle with somebody, you can either do it or you can't do it. And so you get people who can do it. And then it's like jazz musicians.
It would not make sense if film wasn't cheap. I've been on sets before, back in the million years ago when I did acting, and I remember more than one director, should we do another take? Film's cheap.
Film,
so in other words,
this is even cheaper.
Right.
Because, for film, you got 10 minutes. This, you got an hour
I'm saying,
in a little chip.
If you don't get it the first 5 times, do it 5 times more.
Yeah.
So it's just, and then you just pick the best.
Yeah.
You have the best of both worlds. You have the spontaneity.
Yes, what's interesting about it, and this I learned in the first one, is we shot each scene maybe 2 or 3 times. And Chris Guest, who's brilliant, he's in the moment and he never remembers what he did before. So it's new every time. So you have to figure out, how do I stitch all this together to make it make sense? And what you discover is that you cut the audio, not so much the video, not so much you cutting to make sure that there's no mismatches. If the audio tracks and they sound like they're, talking in some kind of rhythmic thing that makes sense, the audience will forgive all of the visual mismatches. And that's what we discovered. So you're essentially writing with the pieces of film.
Isn't that every film to a degree?
Well,
made in the editing room.
Well, some of them are, but usually the editor has a script, has a story, and there's this scene that goes into this scene, goes into this scene. We would move scenes around. You don't know, there's a whole element. Oh, that doesn't work. Get that out of there,
Right, but I'm saying, if you shoot, how many hours of footage did you shoot to make a movie that runs for an hour, 40 minutes?
An hour. They both run 83 minutes. an hour, 23 minutes.
I mean, you're doing the audience you're squeezing out all the stuff that isn't awesome.
That's right. And I would always say, have in your mind, you're sculpting an elephant, whatever.
Right.
Then anything that doesn't look like an elephant, it goes. Even if you love it, even if it's a funny bit, but it doesn't attach itself, you get rid of it.
But you do realize that even that idea, which people of our generation take for granted, that is not the way the younger generation necessarily looks at entertainment. And the proof of that is so much of what they watch on TikTok and so forth, YouTube, is just people doing ordinary things.
Yeah.
And I've said to younger people, like, how could this be more interesting to you? That everything is available. You could watch any movie, you could watch any TV show, shows with great acting, great writing, and that's not what they want.
Yeah, no, they watch these, what they call, it's supposed to be reality, but in a weird way, it's not. Because they know they're putting themselves on TikTok. They know they're doing something on Instagram, and they're doing something to perform to do that.
Well, but I mean, there was this stage of a reality show, which is different than what we're talking about with scripting and good writing and acting. That at least was entertaining because it was never, of course, really they were put up to it. You're going to have a fight, and then they do.
Yes,
and they,
it's not reality.
But this is a step removed from that. This is like watching people take their laundry out.
Yes. And here's what's interesting.
Well, what is your analysis of that?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I don't know if you ever saw this documentary years ago. It was called We Live in Public. Did you ever see it? It was about the guy who created MySpace, which was the precursor to, Facebook. And he says at the beginning of the documentary, he says, Marshall McLuhan had it wrong. Marshall McLuhan said, everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame.
No, that was Andy Warhol. Marshall McLuhan Marshall was the one who said TV's a cool medium.
Oh, cool medium. Cool medium, right.
Warhol said 50,
right. Yeah. You're right. Warhol says everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame.
No, he said they'll get it. He said in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes.
Right. So here's the thing. It's not that they want 15 minutes of fame. They want 15 minutes of fame every day.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like, they're going to know me. No, I want to be known every minute. They want people to, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me.
That's so exactly right. They want it to continue. And, we live in this medium culture now where everything is so dispersed. Everyone almost has their own channel or their own place to sell something. We came up when there was you went on Johnny Carson or you went on Merv Griffin or Dick Cavett. That was it.
And you got noticed.
Well, of course,
you got noticed.
Because everyone was channeled and funneled into one of these 2 or 3 silos.
Right, and now, you couldn't watch any. I mean, it's not like now you do, whether it's Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, or Stephen Colbert. They don't watch the whole show. They watch little bits and pieces of it on YouTube.
Well, one of those shows doesn't even exist anymore or is going off.
Well, Stephen, yeah.
Yeah, the other 2, I mean, you can, they still exist and you can still do it that way, but the reason why they're going off and they're just watching clips is because everyone has their own talk show.
Yeah.
It's like if Johnny Carson was competing with Merv and 4 million other people who have podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, and so when you try to get a guest for this podcast, very often it's like, well, they're doing 2 other podcasts. Who are they? Well, their brother and their best friend, because everybody, either they themselves or someone they know or they're close to.
It's very hard to find somebody who doesn't have a podcast. That's what I want to. Who doesn't?
In our world, it really is.
Yeah. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and you hit on it a little bit. When I was on this All in the Family, and by the way, young people, they don't even know All in the Family. They never heard of it. They don't know what it is. I mean, this is a show that was #1 for 5 years in a row every single week.
Not just #1 at the time, but a culturally groundbreaking show. It was a show, again, I'm saying this for the people who don't know.
I'm telling you, young people, they don't know.
But let me set it up for them to know what we're talking about. We're not just talking about a show that was a hit show on a grand scale. We're talking about a show that changed the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a difference of form, it was a difference of kind.
Right.
And that meant a lot.
Yeah, but think about this. Here we were, a country of, at that time, 1971, about 200 million people, around that number.
Right.
Every single week, 40 to 45 million people would watch All in the Family.
So a quarter of the country.
And, and they had to watch it when it was on. There was no DVR, there was no TiVo, there was none of that.
No.
You had to watch it when it was on. That meant that you were having a shared experience with 40 to 45 million people. That has an impact. You then talking to people, then the water cooler thing and all that. Now, we're a country of what, 340 million or something like that? If you get a show that gets 10 million viewers, that's a big hit. And they're not all watching it at the same time.
The 10 million is already out of date, Rob. There's no show that gets that. I mean, those are numbers that you get for like special events. Sports.
Okay.
Sports is the only shows that get that. Nobody else gets that.
But think about a show, some series that, White Lotus. I don't care what it is, a hot show. If it's 6 million, 5 million, whatever the number is.
Right.
That's in a country of 340 million. And they're not all watching it at the same time. Because you go to a dinner, you can't talk about the show. You go to dinner, you say, "Don't tell me. I only saw the first 2 episodes. I'm only on season 1. You can't. What? I don't talk. So you can't even talk about the show you're on.
No, it's just so different. I was having this friendly argument with my friend Harvey Levin recently because they showed a clip on TMZ of a pop star. I can't remember her name, which says a lot because because everybody in her world knows her. She's a big, because she was on the Make Room for Daddy. Not Make Room for Daddy. No. Call Me Daddy podcast.
Call Me Daddy. Oh, well, that's a big podcast.
Make Room for Daddy, kids.
Was Danny Thomas, and we don't want to go there.
And if you don't remember All in the Family,
you're really not going to remember that show.
I can remember Make Room for Daddy. Was your father friends with Danny Thomas?
Oh, yeah.
Danny Thomas was...
Danny Thomas and his production company and Sheldon Leonard produced the Dick Van Dyke Show, which was my dad's show.
Of course. Did you know Danny Thomas?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was friends with, Marlo. I'm friends with, Tony Thomas who dated my sister in high school and stuff like that, yeah.
Was that true, the rumor that always went around about Danny, that he was a plate man?
I don't want to go there, Bill, because I don't have hard evidence. Or loose evidence.
Or evidence that makes you hard, certainly. Okay. Okay, but that was always the rumor.
Yeah, who knows? He had,
he was, back then, those Jerry Lewis, all those guys, it was a different era. People were weirdos.
Yeah.
You know what people are great at? Avoiding their problems. Oh, I'll just power through. Sure, until you're huddled in the corner of the shower having a meltdown over something trivial like your partner buying oat milk instead of almond milk. So yeah, maybe it's time to talk to someone before you make the evening news, and not in a good way. That's where Rula comes in. They're making high-quality mental health care easy and affordable. And the best part, they take most major insurance. And the average copay is just $15 a session. 15. That's less than you spend on a decent cocktail here in LA. It's simple. Rula asks a few questions, matches you with a licensed in-network provider, and you can meet with your therapist as soon as tomorrow. Every provider is carefully vetted, so you're not stuck with some healing guru who promotes their signature line of gemstone suppositories. Thousands have already trusted Rula to support them on their journey toward improved mental health and overall well-being. Head on over to Rula.com/random to get started today. After you sign up, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Go to RULA.com/random and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who does care. You know, as many times as I've gone shopping for wine, it never fails to be a ridiculous exercise. You've got $50 bottles with labels that look like they were designed by a toddler with crayons, and if you're unlucky enough to be caught at a store tasting, you're supposed to pretend that you taste hints of oak and leather. Leather? I don't want to drink a couch. That's why I like Naked Wines. They cut through the nonsense by connecting you directly to independent winemakers, actual human beings, not a marketing department with a thesaurus. And it's a deal. Use code RANDOM at nakedwines.com and you get 6 bottles for just $39.99. 6 bottles. At that price, even your least favorite dinner guest will get a refill. The Club Random team cracked open a bottle of their Pinot the other night after a recording. The review is in. Velvety, lush, and delicious. And not once did my producer have to pretend the detected notes of crushed violet. It just tasted like good wine, period. They've been around for 15 years, backing over 90 independent winemakers and delivering wine up to 60% cheaper by cutting out the middleman. So skip the wine snobbery. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/random, click Enter Voucher, and put in my code RANDOM for both the code and password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99, with shipping included. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles at nakedwines.com/random and use the code RANDOM and password RANDOM for 6 bottles of wine for $39.99. Anyway, what I was saying is, she was saying to the, I think Alex Cooper's the host, that she did not know who Joe Rogan was. James Joe Rogan.
She doesn't even know who Joe Rogan is.
Right.
Who's a big deal now.
Very big deal. I mean, in podcasting,
he's
he was
number one
by far. He was one of the first to it, and I think Joe does great. Don't always agree with him, and that's okay. Yeah. But not to have heard of him.
Yeah.
And I said that says a lot, and Harvey said, "Oh, no, she knows." I said, "Then why is she lying?" And then he brought in 2 guys from his staff who were young, like 18, 19, but they were male. They weren't quite sure who Joe Rogan was either.
Wow.
And I thought, if they don't know Joe Rogan, we are all in our own silos.
Right. By the way, it's very humbling, because it means that when we go, nobody's going to remember any of this stuff. I mean, I was walking out of a Beverly Hills hotel one day and I run into Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty was as big a star in America as there ever was. And my kids, they're young kids, they don't know. They don't know what it is. I said, Bonnie and Clyde,
But why would they have seen, I mean, they may, how old are the kids?
Well, now they know who he is.
Okay, but
they were young. Yeah.
Right, but of course, there were great movies that when I was 12, I wasn't aware of, and then I got to when I was 19.
Yeah, but eventually you would watch them.
Well, I also think when we were younger, we looked up to older people, whereas now I think there's a tremendous kind of ageism in the country.
Yeah. There's always been ageism.
There has always been ageism, but I feel like it's more hostile. Maybe it's just because I am older. You think
Are people being hostile to you?
Yes. Well, of course.
You think it's because of your age? What do you think?
Partly, yes.
Part of it is your opinions or something.
Well, that's obviously part of it.
Yeah.
But they will attack me not on the merits of the argument. That's what I object to.
Yeah.
It's like I've said it many times. I've said it publicly. I've said it on the air. Like, if you have a problem with this, don't say you're old.
Yeah, what is that?
That's not an argument.
No.
In fact, that's a prejudice.
It's an observation.
It's a prejudice.
It's an observation.
Okay, but
you're right.
For the people who think that they're the most liberal, who absolutely hate any sort of prejudice, that is a prejudice.
Absolutely.
Why should I even listen to you?
Yeah.
Or, he's just, get off my lawn. Well, again, that's just to cut off the debate.
Yeah.
Engage with the argument. So you don't want to do that because they'll lose.
Yeah.
So they just say, you're old, and then immediately you're just, we don't count what you have to say.
Yeah.
You can't imagine doing that to any other group.
No.
I mean,
No.
we are the last acceptable group which you can mock, make fun of.
But you're a lot younger than me. Not a lot, but
Not
a
a
little
lot.
bit. A little bit. But until there was the children of the baby boom generation is the biggest chunk of people in the population. So, we have strength in numbers, even if we're losing our strength.
Yeah, I saw this article when they canceled Stephen Colbert, and it said 10 years ago, the average Colbert viewer was 58 years old. Today, they're 68 years old. I was like, yeah, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Let me
He's got loyal fans.
take a wild leap that this guy's going to be 78 in 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and, I am always open to everything anybody of any age says. When I criticize ideas that I think are dumb, if they come from young people, it's not because they're young.
No.
It's because I think your ideas are stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, giving communism another try, to me, is a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Because people of our generation remember how evil and horrible communism was.
Yeah. But now we're at a different time. Because it's not about like during the 60s, with the Vietnam War, that was the whole idea, was the creeping communism. And in the 50s was McCarthyism, that there's communism under the bed. Everywhere you look is a communist. Right. And what we didn't want was to be like the Soviet Union. We were basically saying, protect America for democracy. And we fought against Hitler, to win the Second World War. And
fascism, not communism.
No, that we fought against fascism. Matter of fact, the Russians fought on our side during the Second World War. So we fought against fascism, and now that's the argument. Because America, as ugly as it's been over the years, fits and starts, it moves towards hopefully better things. I mean, women couldn't vote, they can vote. Blacks couldn't marry whites, they can. Gays couldn't get married, they can.
Right.
So we had a black president. I mean, things move along very slowly, and we certainly have an ugly past, slavery and all of that. But this is the first time that we've had another type of government, a form of government, taking away that slow and awkward progress. And that is, we're looking at, authoritarians around the world, and we have a guy who wants to be one of those guys. And so it's tough. It's a very tough thing, because I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. You may be able to tell me. Because right after the First World War, Germany was a democracy for a minute before Hitler came in, and then he said no.
The Weimar Republic.
Yeah. So we're going to do the Third Reich and all that.
And Hitler was elected.
Yeah, but he never had more than 25% of the electorate, but he figured out a way to do it.
Well, in a parliamentary system, very often people don't.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
many parties.
Yeah, that's true. So he becomes a fascist state, and they do what they do, which is the horror. And after the war, Germany moves back towards a democracy, slowly becomes a democracy, and one of the best, strongest democracies in the world right now. But here's what's uncomfortable for us right now, where we are. My wife, her mother was in Auschwitz. She was the only survivor of her whole family. Her whole family died in Auschwitz. My Uncle Charlie was part of D-Day and fought in 11 major battles and, liberated camps. My second father, Norman Lear, flew 52 bombing missions over Nazi Germany, all in service, and millions died, all in service of making sure that we would never become an authoritarian fascist state. And here we are, 80 years after that war, and we're moving towards that. It's scary.
It's very scary. And, I said this on my show a few weeks ago. I think I was the first guy to use the phrase slow-moving coup. I did it before he won the first time.
Yeah.
I never stopped. My big criticism of the people who were on my case for having dinner with him was just wait, see what I say after. If I change, if I start being complimentary or no, I never changed. Never stopped saying what I've always been saying.
Now it's not so slow moving anymore.
That's what I said a couple of weeks ago. I said, this is act 4 of it. Like the point I was making, and I don't remember anybody saying this before, I did see it get picked up a lot, so I don't think so, was that this thing about stopping crime by putting troops in the streets, of course you can stop crime with more troops in the streets. The problem is troops in the streets, once you get used to that, and once you have them in the streets, especially of our nation's capital, if there is a disputed election, you already have the private army in the street.
Yes.
They've been there for 3-4 years.
Yes.
This to me is textbook what you would do.
Textbook.
And, this is pessimistic, but I honestly don't see the Democrats getting power back. Not for a very long time.
You don't think there's any chance that the Democrats could take back the House in 2000?
They could win the vote, but so what? Congress, I was saying today, we should do something in January about, let's get rid of the State of the Union address, because it leads the country into a very bad thought, which is that the president is the one who suggests what should be done. That's not what the Constitution says. Congress does that. The president just is supposed to execute the laws. We have switched it completely where people think he's the fucking leader, and because they don't know anything, because the education system fell apart.
And most people are not directly, at this point, directly affected. We have people who are thrown out of the country. Those people are directly affected who shouldn't be. Many cases, there's no due process. We understand that's a horror. That's a horror. But most Americans don't feel the pain of it yet, whether it's economically or their rights being taken away. Right. And they will feel it, and the time they'll feel it, unfortunately, might be too late when it's already taken over. Here's what I think.
It's already too late.
Well, you may be right. You may be right. But this is what I'm thinking. You could slow the thing down to a point where you might be able to stop it, because there's still going to be, hopefully, an election in 2026.
Oh, there'll be an election.
Well, wait a minute.
Russia has elections.
I'm saying a fair election. We don't know if there will be. If there isn't, then you're right. Then like the Vegas guys do, like that, it's over. But if there's an election where the Democrats are able to regain the House, then they have the ability to hold hearings and stuff like that, and not going to change everything overnight, but it slows the thing down. Yeah, it slows it down.
That's possible, but it's still.
You don't think there will be a fair election in 2026?
First of all, the way the Democrats are now, I just don't think I don't know if they would even win an election, because they're very unpopular and for very good reason. Now, I didn't vote for Trump, as I always say to my woke friends. We voted for the same person. You're just why she lost. I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying that's my line to them, and I will stand by that. And everything Trump is doing, and by the way, a lot of the things that he would say he's straightening out, almost all of them, I would say he's doing it in the wrong way, colossally wrong. But not wrong about like a lot of things that needed straightening out. The border, for example.
Yeah, but he's not really straightening it out.
I just said that. I said he doesn't do it in the right way. But the that instinct and
there was a bipartisan bill that called for stronger border security, all of that, and the Republicans said, we don't want it.
That's politics.
And by the way, it was developed by a bipartisan group in the Senate. And they're, very conservative Republican senators who were in favor of it. Anyway,
I know.
We're far gone from that now. I mean, we're so far from that.
Right. I just don't see them, giving up power. They have all the levers of power, and power begets power. Once you have it, it's easier to get more of it.
Yep.
It's like rabbits breeding.
Well, especially if you have no compunction for thumbing your nose at a court ruling the rule of law, if you don't care about it.
And if the people don't like the Democrats, again, often for very good reason. They don't seem connected to reality in a lot of ways. And they don't seem to be on the same page common sense-wise with a lot of people. So there's a lot of people in this country who just go, yeah, I don't love Trump. He's crazy, but these people are even crazier. They have to get rid of that first. They don't even have a chance unless they do that. And they themselves are saying that now. I see that Third Way, is that the group? It's a left-leaning think tank put out.
During the Clinton years, they had the Third Way.
I think that's what it's named after. Anyway, they put out a list trying to help the Democrats of 44 words and phrases they should never say again.
Yeah.
That just lost people. Patriarchy and privilege and all stuff like.
Yeah, which bathroom you go into shouldn't be at the hill that you die on.
Right. Yeah, right. And for people who are our age who pee a lot.
Yeah,
this is
really. I just if there's a room, I can open it up and go in. I have that joke. I put it in bucket list. I was making this movie, American President, and they had a consultant on it. He was a retired Secret Service guy, and he was telling me, because he was an older guy, he said, the 3 things you got to remember when you get old. And I put it right in bucket list. I had Nicholson say it. He says, never pass up a bathroom, never waste a hard-on, and never trust a fart. So that was the 3. So, yes, if there's a bathroom there, we want to be able to access it.
See, there's one you could redo.
The bucket list?
No, the American President.
Oh, the American President. Yeah.
I mean, God, when you think of, now, this is Michael Douglas in 1990-something?
6 or, something like that.
I mean, that's 30 years ago, and you think about what the presidency was.
Yeah.
And, and
the issues are still the same. We still have a gun. We still have too many guns and people getting, murdered every day, on the streets. And we still have problems with the environment. Those were the 2 issues that we focused on.
Right. She was a lobbyist.
She was a lobbyist for an environmental group.
Right.
And, that was the thing that I was interested in at the time. And Aaron Sorkin, who wrote the screenplay, he was interested in gun control.
Yeah. And, it was as I remember the film, the crux of it is politics is about making deals. It's about bargains. And of course, somebody can always get butthurt about you're not pure enough. Again, this is a big problem with the left.
Perfect is the enemy of the good.
Right. But that's why Obama, he was great at that. I mean, he was that guy who thought that and said that perfect is the enemy of the good. And let's get what can be done practically.
But nobody's willing to do that now.
Nobody is.
Both sides are not willing to do anything like what is the old, the days, you talk to Chris Matthews, who worked for Tip O'Neill, and he said Tip O'Neill and, they would talk all the time.
Again, exactly.
The opposite.
Today's episode is sponsored by Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics is a fan favorite amongst the Club Random team. They're not exactly college-age kids anymore, so bouncing back the next morning can be, kind of rough, to say the least. So trust us. Gulp down some Z-Biotics before you go out, and you'll thank us the next day. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. Ugh. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Head to zbiotics.com/random and use the code RANDOM at checkout for 15% off your first order. It's backed by a 100% guarantee, money back, no questions asked. Again, that's zbiotics.com/random, code RANDOM for 15% off. Hey folks, my longtime friend, naturopath, Dr. Julian Neil, made a line of hair care products called Neil Naturopathic. He saw people struggling with scalp issues and thought, why not create something gentle, effective, and real? So he started hand-mixing tonics, not because he wanted to start a boutique shampoo cult, but because his patients needed something that didn't read like a chemistry exam. He made real, toxic-free formulas that truly work. Neil Naturopathic is 100% from nature. Botanical extracts, oils, and vegetable proteins. No sulfates, no parabens, no fake perfume that makes you smell like a spa exploded. And also important to me, they never test on animals. Dr. Neil formulates naturopathic tonics that focus on removing debris, supplying nutrients, and calming inflammation, a whole scalp approach. There's even a hair tonic tea to support scalp health, plus tonics and shampoos for dandruff, eczema, and regrowth. All of my guests on this show get these products, and a lot of them truly love it. I use it daily, and I'm doing pretty good. Now, you can too. If you care about ingredients like I do and want real results, check it out. Check out neilnaturopathic.com. Use code RANDOM at checkout for 20% off. Again, that's Neil, naturopathic.com, and use code RANDOM at checkout for 20% off. Then sit back, sip your tea, and enjoy the compliments. This is why this would make some sense for the Democrats if they had any power. But the idea of we don't talk to you when we don't even have the power? Of course you have to talk to people. I mean, there was an article somebody wrote, he was...
But here's the thing. You're right, but here's the thing. Let's say we're going to have that argument. You're going to try to talk to somebody and you have a point of view, the other person has a point of view. Before you have the exchange, you have to agree on certain facts.
No, you don't. You can't. Once you start down that road...
Well, no.
It's like these are... You just have to talk to people.
No, you talk to people. But if somebody says 2 + 2 is 4 and the other guy says, no, it's not, how do you begin the discussion?
Because Rob, that's a slippery slope. I agree, there are certain things that we all think, and then there are people, I'm sorry, everybody... I know this from doing this show. For so many people who've sat here and they're like, oh, this is a smart person. This is a rational person. And then there's like one thing. They don't believe we landed on the moon. And you're just like, no, if you start down that road of, I can't talk to you if you believe this crazy thing, because maybe...
Okay, so let's say you're having a conversation with that person. I don't believe
I have.
landed on... Okay. So what do you do? What do you say after that?
What do you do in a marriage
No, but a guy says that, and you say what?
No, I'm serious. Same thing what you would do in a marriage. And who would know better than me about what to do in a marriage?
You're an expert.
Yeah. No, but in a relationship.
But it says that, he says that, and you go what?
Okay, I'm answering you. I'm answering you the way I want to answer.
Okay, go ahead.
It's very like a relationship. I have not been married, but I've been in long-term serious relationships. And I know there are moments where the person is believing something and you just, every fiber of your being wants to be like, I got to get this person not to see it that way. Because I just think it's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And if you want that relationship to last, you're going to have to learn the 3 little words that are most important to any relationship, and they're not, I love you. They're, let it go. Sometimes you just have to let it go. I mean, let's take our friend Bobby Kennedy. Now, I think they should let him go. I do. I mean, I've had extraordinary amount of patience with circumcision.
I think you I have to let him go, and you pull out a scissors. And what do you say? He's not circumcised? What are you saying? Because he doesn't believe in it? Because there's too much thimerosal in that scissors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we both like him. We both know him well.
I've known him for a long time.
I know you have.
He married the woman who used to be our assistant.
Is that right?
Yeah, Cheryl. Yeah,
Cheryl.
She worked for us for a couple of years.
He's still his wife.
Yeah,
Cheryl Hines.
Yeah.
Was your assistant?
She's not our assistant. She's his wife. Yeah, right. No, she's still his wife, but not our assistant anymore.
But she was your assistant?
Yeah, and she would,
Before she was an actress?
She was an actress. She was going out for jobs, in interviews. And she got Curb Your Enthusiasm while she was working for us.
Well,
so we had to let her go.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know all that. Well, I mean, look, I tore Bradley Whitford a new asshole about this about a year ago because this is, again, what I really don't like about the left, because he was just so abusive in a tweet, yelling at her for staying with her husband. Staying with her husband?
No, well, that's not fair.
That's
not fair.
It's a marriage.
You want to attack Bobby Kennedy for believing, that let's put the bear in the trunk and drop him off at Central Park. That's something you could talk about.
No, look, there's a great amount of disappointment I personally have, and a lot of people have, because I've always been on the alternative side, shall we call it, of Western medicine. Not that I don't appreciate Western medicine, I'm glad we have it, but I think that the emphasis has always been on the wrong things, like pills and surgery instead of prevention, stuff like that Bobby was all over. The idea that what really makes us sick
is eating bad food,
eating
the environment, processed food, and all that stuff. Right. I understand. So that part of it's good.
Exactly.
But we do know that they eliminated polio.
Yes. I mean, that's
a thing.
It is a thing. It's a little more complicated than just the vaccine. It also had to do with at the time, there was bad sanitation. That got better. But look, I'm a vaccine fan. Yeah. I just don't want you ever to force one on me. I was with them on that.
No, that's true. But, my wife's pointed this out many times. I can guarantee you his children had been vaccinated when they were little. I'm sure they were. Well, I'm sure he was vaccinated.
I gave him every amount of slack I could because I like him and because the general idea of it I thought was good, but he just has proved himself to be someone who won't listen to any science. He's just a kook now, and he's fucking up the CDC. I mean, I could name, just by using letters, so many things. CDC, EPA,
FDA,
DOJ.
FDA. Yeah.
The Department of Justice, the scariest one, going after your political enemies. Like the Republicans.
Well, there you're going back to the authoritarian playbook. That's authoritarianism.
Look, my list of things that are bad about this administration is a long one, and I get into it every week. I also think the reason why Trump does so well is because he identifies places where the Democrats did fuck up. And I could go down that list too, like the border, like DEI was out of control, colleges completely out of control, elite universities where the kids are raised to be these anarchist, America-hating anti-Semites, and there is zero diversity of opinion. The hypocrisy of diversity is the greatest thing in the world, except of what we think, which is where it's also very important.
But the point is, you can't force people. It's a university. What he's trying to do is force the federal government onto the universities and forcing them to. Well, they're going to withhold certain things unless you do this.
Well, I mean, if they're getting taxpayer dollars and they're supposed to be, therefore, in the service of this country to a degree. Yes, I think then you have some right. Now, of course, the way he does it is always a bull in a china shop. He goes in there with a club and just starts breaking shit. I mean, what does taking away cancer funding have to do with the anti-Semitism on campus? But again, Harvard has an endowment of $50 billion. Really? They couldn't make that up? They can't find that $500 million themselves somewhere? So there's a lot of bullshit and hypocrisy.
Well, right now, the UC system is also going to be under attack, and Newsom is trying to fight back and say, let's hold your line here. I mean, and law firms are, some cave, and a good friend of mine, Ted Boutros, who, is with a law firm that is holding firm. Gibson Dunn is holding firm. So, you pick your, what.
I have been trying to make Gavin Newsom president for 15 years. I'm still on that page that he'd be a great candidate, even though he has a lot of California baggage.
No, but he would be. To me, it's not about California anymore. It's about who is articulate, who is smart, who knows how to govern, and in this case, who's strong and pushing back. So I'm with you on him.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've known him since he was mayor, and I knew him before that. He was supportive of ballot initiatives that I've done, and I like him. I like him.
That's what I say. And I've just had discussions with him to his face about, because Gavin's good like that. He'll come, he'll talk.
Yeah.
He could take a punch. Most of the Democrats can't. They won't even come on. We invite them every week. They won't come. The Republicans always.
What am I doing here?
The Republicans always come.
Yeah.
And they take their beating like a man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But the Democrats, but not Gavin.
No.
And I've said there are lots of things I think he went way too far, and that is going to be his biggest liability. But as you say,
well, they're now the fourth largest. California, the fourth largest economy in the country. It just surpassed Japan. So you know, not that you're going to. There's no secession or anything like that. But he's representing 40 million people.
Yeah,
and they're not all liberal Democrats.
Rob, he's going to win the state.
No. He's finished. No, he's not. He's not running anymore for the state. He's finished.
No,
he's turned out.
I'm saying in the general, he's going to win the state.
Oh no!
He's going to win. He's going to win those 40 million.
I understand.
For sure.
I understand.
But
I think he can. When you look at Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, which are the swing states, he'd win those too.
But in key ways, he has recently, in the last 6 months, moved to the center on different issues.
He's never been wildly liberal.
Yes, he was.
But when he married gay people when he was the mayor of San Francisco,
he didn't. He officiated it. He wasn't marrying.
No, he wasn't marrying a gay person.
He was liberal.
He was officiating over gay marriage,
which is great. He was out ahead on an issue that even Republicans now agree with.
Some do. Oh, well, they're trying to undo a lot of
They're not going to do that.
I don't think they can, but they're going to try.
They're not. Sean McCreesh just wrote a great article in the Times about how much of Washington now is gay Trumpers who are, staff positions and so forth, but they're well accepted, and and you know what? You can't start not talking to people or hating people because part of them is something you don't like or don't agree with. And he quoted Trump, had a great, I thought, quote in the article about his view when he was asked about gay, and he said, I go to a restaurant, some people like the spaghetti with red sauce, I like a steak. That's why they have a menu. That's why restaurants have menus. And we have to focus on what to be worried about, and that starts.
What we have to worry about is
troops in the streets.
We have to worry about destroying a democracy. Of 250 years.
Oh yeah,
that's what we have to worry about.
And what is the plan? There's this terrible asymmetry we have where when the Democrat loses the election, it's over in a matter of hours, and we concede and go home, and that's that.
Yeah.
And if the Republican loses, you just know it doesn't end that day. Yeah. It could be a landslide.
Yeah.
And it won't be. It never is. But if it doesn't matter how close or unclose it is.
Yeah.
They're gonna say
Well, that's what Carrie Lake did.
They're gonna say they won
in Arizona. She did that. And she lost pretty bad. She still said
he still hasn't conceded 2020.
No.
Publicly, anyway.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. So you think there'll be a 2028 election?
There's always an election. Even the dictatorships
No,
have
I'm saying
elections.
a real election.
Yes, I do. I just think that they will find a way when the votes come in, if they lose, of contesting it, just like they did in 2020. The only difference is in 2020, they had people like Ratzenberger in Georgia who wouldn't go along with the scheme.
Yeah.
Well, they've had all this time to replace those people.
Right.
The head of the FBI, now all the people who you would need to go along with the scheme, and you already have the army in the streets, are there. I just don't see it. I don't see.
Oh, I hope you may be right.
I just
and
don't.
If we do, and if you're right, that will be the end of American democracy.
I just don't.
And I don't know of any country that has had a democracy for as long as we have, has gone to authoritarian rule, that has ever had a democracy come back.
I
don't see that happening. So we have to hold on to it. We have to hold on to it.
I don't see on November 10th, 2028,
2028.
Donald Trump sending out a truth saying, "I'd like to congratulate President-elect Klobuchar."
Yeah. Well, do you think he'll try to run again in a third time?
I don't. I think he's going to do the Medvedev move, which is what Putin did between 2008 and 2012, when Putin was technically, by their constitution at the time, prohibited from running. So he had his prime minister and him switch jobs, but nobody was fooled that he wasn't really.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's J.D. Vance, and Trump is still around, you don't think. First of all, Trump can destroy anyone with social media. So if the person who's running the country, quote unquote, gets out of line, he could just blast out his social messages. That's where all the power is. He does it now.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that
But he might run.
This is the thing I talked about with some friends after we lost this past election, and we lost 2016 by a very small amount. It was 79,000 votes in 3 states. It was, Wisconsin, the same, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And what they did, and they were smart to do, from an electoral standpoint, is they suppressed the vote in Milwaukee, Detroit, and Philadelphia, which is predominantly black populations in those areas. And if you suppress enough, it's not that many votes, 79,000 in 3 states aggregate. That's what they did. And they knew because, Putin was playing with the farm in St. Petersburg and had all of that, working. But it didn't have to cost them very much money either. And then we won and we lost again. And I've said the only way we're going to be able to compete is to have the kind of grip they have on the media. And it's not just the regular media, television, newspaper, social media, AI, all of the stuff that they have control of, unless we have something to bounce up against it. You remember when Air America came on? Because at the beginning when they had talk radio.
What became MSNBC.
Yeah. Remember talk radio. When talk radio first came into being, the shows that got huge ratings was Rush Limbaugh and right-wing talk.
Yeah,
that was predominantly what there was, and the idea for Air America was to try to combat that. And I was at a meeting at, when Clinton was in the White House, and they had a meeting at Jay Rockefeller's house in Virginia, who was a senator at the time, and Gephardt was there, and Tom Daschle, and Barry Diller, and all these people there talking about trying to create some kind of forum where we could compete using media with them.
Right.
And the Democracy Alliance came out of that, and Soros was one of the funders. I funded, and what came out of it was the, Center for American Progress, CREW, which was a legal group and Media Matters. Well, those are the big things that came out. It's nothing compared to what they have. They have a juggernaut. When you have, American Enterprise Institute, and you have American Heritage Foundation, and you've got Cato and all these things, and they are behind you with well-funded like crazy, it's hard to push your ideas through, because our base, we have our billionaires, but they have way more billionaires. And most of our constituents are not as rich.
It's not the money that wins.
No, but you have to build something. Listen, I ran into Rupert Murdoch, and I said, I want to, thank you.
Well, you run into a lot of people.
Well, I didn't well, who else did I run into?
Warren Beatty?
Oh, but they're 20 years apart.
Okay.
No, I'm not running into them the same day. Hey, Warren. Hey, Rupert. No, I'm not doing that.
I'm just saying you're a popular guy.
Anyway, I see him, and I say, I want to, thank you for standing, up and letting your network come out and say these things. But there's very little. I mean, who knows where he is at this point, but we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have a media infrastructure the way the other side does. And we can't.
That's bullshit.
It isn't bullshit.
The New York Times NPR, MSNBC.
Nobody reads these things.
Nobody reads the New York Times?
No. Nobody reads the New York Times, and nobody watches MSNBC, and nobody.
Not anymore. But people do read the New York Times.
Yes, a small group of people read the New York Times.
Well, first of all, the New York Times has been doing very well financially. Also, they're a national.
I know they're doing well. I'm talking about.
They're a national paper, and in my view, they would do a lot better if they weren't so ideologically captured. They're a very different paper than they were when. I mean, I've been reading it since it was.
Listen, I read it. I've been reading it since I'm a little kid too.
A kid.
But here's the thing. When I say Rush Limbaugh and those kinds of right-wing shows dominated talk news, Fox is the one that does better than MSNBC, CNN on the cable side. So that's what you have. You don't have parity. And then when you took at social media, Twitter, I don't know, you still on Twitter?
Well,
it's X now.
It's X now.
X, yeah.
Am I on it? I have personally, not really.
Okay,
but,
so I was not on any social media. My wife says to me, when Trump first emerged when he was running for president back in 2015, I guess it was.
Yes.
16. She said, you should talk, get out there. So I got onto Twitter and I built, a good following. I had like 2.5 million followers, whatever. It's nothing compared to, Dua Lipa or, or whoever.
Dua Lipa.
I don't know. I pulled Dua Lipa out of my ass.
You did, and it was a perfect reference.
Yeah. Or, Selena Gomez or whatever. But the point is I had this following, right? Then Elon Musk buys this, takes it over, and it changes, whatever. And I'm saying, I don't want to be this. I'm enough of this stuff. So I get off. Now I can't get back on. They can't get my name because apparently if you give it up, you can't get back. So I said, I try to get back on. And it says, you can't say Rob Reiner. It says actual Rob Reiner. What's the hell? And, from 2.5 million followers, I had 48 followers. And so it was, but the point is they have all these followers. They have Truth Social. He has his own, platform.
What happened with X was Twitter was a mess. My line about Twitter was always, anything I want to say on Twitter, I can't say on Twitter because it was so full.
What did you say? What did you want to say you couldn't say?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
This is before Elon bought it.
Yeah.
It had got so overtaken by left-wing scolds that they were just looking for something to catch you on. Another obnoxious trait of the far left. They don't look to uplift, which is what traditional liberals like myself believe in, uplifting. It was just catching people and putting a scalp on the wall because we caught something you said. So I stopped tweeting, and it was too bad because it used to be fun. You say, I had a brain fart, I could say it.
Yeah.
But then they would just, so
Elon, but if you say something that you really believe, and I've put a lot of things out there. If you look at my old Twitter feed, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but nothing that offends the far left.
Well, I don't know who it offends. All I know is they, the right would call me a libtard, which is that's par for the course. But it got way worse than that. They had me living on Epstein's Island, and I took a summer home there. And I'm the Mr. Pedophilia. I mean, it's like crazy.
Oh, it is crazy.
Crazy stuff.
Were you ever on the plane?
No.
Okay.
No, I never met the guy. I don't even know the guy.
Because some people were on the plane, but they didn't go to the island. The island, the plane.
Were you ever on the plane?
No.
The island?
No. Well, how would I get the island?
You got to get on the plane to get to the island.
Yes, but the plane went all over the world. Now the island was like a hub. It was kind of like what Atlanta is for Delta, but but it was still like Clinton was on the plane a lot. I don't think he was ever on the island.
No, not the island.
Okay, but my point was that Elon took over, claiming that what he was going to do was get rid of this one-sided, and it was completely one-sided.
But he didn't do.
And then he did the opposite.
He went the other way.
It just went.
He went the other way.
And it's a perfect paradigm for the world we live in.
Yeah,
Nothing ever stops in the middle. I call it pendulumism. The pendulum just got, and all he did was turn it into a place where now nobody, unless you're super right-wing, feels comfortable
then
there.
you can't be there. Yeah.
So, how do we get back to a place where we do that. And I would say, job one, don't stop talking.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I mean, I was going to tell you before, I was reading this article about a guy who was in the Biden administration, and he cut off his brother who voted for Trump, or maybe brother-in-law, and then he wrote this article, I forget for who, and it basically said, yeah, you know what, I relooked at that issue. He's my brother-in-law. He's a good guy. He voted for Trump. You know, it's more complicated than that. And then there was a backlash to that. You know, and
they got mad at him for
New York Magazine
for
was
forgiving
like,
him.
Well, New York was like, it is perfectly okay to unfriend and cut off. I forget the word they used for, like, disengage with your talk about family. Like the advice is, don't go to Thanksgiving if they're. And that is just never going to make this country better. And I know it's terrible to have to, like, suck it up and talk to people who, yes, hold views that, you think you're morally superior to, and sometimes you actually are morally superior to. You still have to talk.
You have to try to talk, but it is very frustrating when, the truth is ephemeral for sure, but there are certain things that are true. Like 2 and 2 is 4, like there's a man on the moon,
I know.
like a man landed on the moon.
I know.
Those things, you have to at least agree to that. How do you have the conversation then?
Okay, well, we had this discussion before, and I told you my answer. And I think
your answer is just let it go. Let it go.
If you demand ideological purity about everyone you want to talk to, you're going to have a very small group of friends. You can find.
I'm not saying ideological
and
purity.
Way,
I'm just saying basis for conversation. You can come at it different ways, but you have to agree that there's certain realities.
Okay, but there are certain realities, and
in other words,
like for example, they would say, and one of them is biological sex. So I was talking
biological sex. What do you mean?
Boys and girls.
Oh, yeah.
Penises and vaginas. X and Y chromosomes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that wasn't the left position for a long time. Certainly not the far left. Now, you mentioned Epstein. I was having this discussion with somebody about Epstein like a month ago when it first hit. And, we were talking about Trump and Epstein. And I said, Trump is on, I don't know what he did with Epstein, but he's on tape saying he grabs pussies. That's on tape.
Yeah.
You know what his answer was? He said, okay, he's on tape doing that, but you want to talk about doing bad things to vaginas? And then he went into lots of facts and figures about transing kids who are younger than where they would do it anywhere else in the world based on self-diagnosis. So if you want to get on your high horse about who's crazy, it's going to be a fight.
But you don't want to get into a question of whataboutism and that. We have to agree that it's not a good thing for a man to just grab a woman.
We do.
We have to agree on that. We have to agree on that.
He wasn't saying that wasn't a good thing. He was just saying, what about this other thing? First of all, it's just as...
We can say that's not good either. But the point is we have to...
But it's valid. And what he was saying...
It doesn't justify the first thing.
Trump saying that...
Bill, it doesn't justify the first thing.
No one's saying it justifies it.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Where's your sense of nuance? What we're saying is what this person was saying, and it's a valid argument, was like, what Trump did, okay, conceded, wrong. But it didn't actually, that comment itself, if he did it, it was wrong. But is it actually worse than taking a child who perhaps shouldn't be having this kind of life-changing surgery? Kids are very confused. Should we really be this gung-ho? And again,
we can have that discussion. We can talk about that. But that's not part of the discussion of this. They're two different things. And we can have both of those discussions. But we shouldn't conflate them and say, because this is bad, that's okay.
No one is saying that.
I thought you were saying that.
I'm not saying that.
What are you
You're
saying?
just missing the point.
I'm missing the point.
You are.
As usual, right?
Not as usual, but you are. There is a point to be made. People who write into the show back me up on this. No, we're not saying what Trump did was right. We're not saying it shouldn't be condemned. We're just saying if the subject is who's crazy about vaginas, the subject is vaginas, and craziness is the issue. We think that what you're doing in this area is crazier and actually affects people more than him grabbing pussies.
I'm going to say that may be true. That may be true. But that person isn't running for president.
Right.
And this, no, but I'm saying,
I didn't vote for
we're talking
Trump,
about a man running for president that has that sensibility. It's just,
okay. All right, I give up.
It's disgusting.
I said my piece. You either get it or you don't.
So you want that guy to...
I did, no. Can you not pause before running immediately all the way over here? This is not where the argument is, and straw man didn't show up to this party. That's not what I'm saying, and that's not what the issue is. I don't want Trump. I would have voted for him if I did, but I didn't.
Right.
And I would, have paused.
No, but what you're saying is you should be able to engage anybody in any discussion about something that they are passionate about, and I agree with that.
Part of the reason why the right is so butthurt about the left, it's not always just policy. It's like they feel very disrespected. Like, I won't even talk to you. I won't even sit down and break bread with you. Really? They don't like that. Remember the deplorables comment Hillary made? They just think that they're looked down.
Well, that's a bad thing to be saying if you're running for president, to call some people who are voters deplorable. Even if you think that, you don't say that's bad politics. But Trump doesn't have that problem. He says whatever the hell he wants, and he doesn't worry about that. He doesn't worry about what he says about people.
He's such an instinctive politician. He talked about it from the 80s that he was going to run. He kind of knew that in himself, and he just flipped the script. Everybody had become so press spokesman, I just say the exact right thing and try not to offend anyone. And he was like, I'm just going to let my interior monologue out. I don't know if he can help himself.
No, I don't think he can.
He just says...
And this is what he really thinks.
That's in many ways refreshing, even when it's awful.
But it's also... listen, I made a movie with my wife called God and Country, which was all about Christian nationalism.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah, and the idea was that, and we had a lot of very conservative Christians on the show talking about, what they feel was not only a danger to the country, but a danger to Christianity. And because they felt that this Christian nationalism was going so far afield from the teachings of Jesus in their minds, and the idea that, and this is something I remember back in 2004 when Bush was running for re-election and ran against Kerry, and I remember Karl Rove saying that we could win this election with just Christian evangelicals. If we get all of them, because they weren't getting them all to the polls. I mean, the Ralph Reeds of the world and the Turning Points and all that had not galvanized at that point. They started to, and they were able to, and they've been successful since then. But this whole idea that Donald Trump is the guy that they think is the second coming or is sent by God to represent them, it can't be further from, I mean, if you read than the teachings of Jesus. It can't be further from it.
Okay, but there's one word.
And they love him.
They love his dirty draws. There's one word that explains this.
Which is?
Cyrus.
Well, yeah, of course, Cyrus. Yeah, Cyrus. I understand.
Can you explain to the people who Cyrus is?
No, you can explain it.
Okay. It's in the Bible, and it's in it's the 45th chapter, and he was the 45th president. So, I mean, you can't argue with science.
You do the math. Yeah.
But Cyrus was a king of Persia, or he fought the Persians. No, he was the king of Persia.
Yeah.
Anyway, he freed the Jews accidentally. He was like going to war against...
I didn't mean that.
As a sideshow, it turned out very well for the Jews. That's who they think Trump is. He's a Cyrus figure. In other words, he's very flawed.
He's flawed, he's faulty, but he's our guy.
But we're the Jews in this scenario.
And most of these Christian conservatives like David French and Russell Moore, they feel that this movement has gone so far afield from, love thy neighbor and do unto others and all of those things that are part of the Jesus thing. So, and if you looked at what happened in January 6th, there was a lot of Bibles and crosses, and they were all storming the Capitol.
Oh, no. QAnon and Christian nationalism are absolutely a Venn diagram that looks like a circle.
Yeah.
No, it's all part of it.
Yeah. This is scary. That's scary,
Bush, you mentioned Bush, he was a super duper Christian.
Yeah, but he didn't push it on others.
Exactly. I mean, I remember reading.
There was a separation of church and state at one point.
There was, and that's what I'm going to get to, or I want to ask you, because I do remember reading that like a sly dig during the Bush administration was misjit Bible study.
Yeah.
So they were full in on the Jesus-y.
Yeah.
But do you think, given what we now see in the Trump administration and things that are just so unprecedented, do you think we were too hard on George Bush? He was, I wonder, and it's hard to remember because it was 20 years ago.
To me, the biggest...
But I was very hard on him, and I'm still not a huge fan.
No, but
it was a normal sort of Republican.
Yeah, he was, and so was Reagan, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But to me, the big thing with Bush was going to war in Iraq, and that to me made him somebody that
But I still
it was a lie.
Yeah.
It was a lie, like when we went into war in Vietnam and the Spanish-American War. They're lies, and we understand how they get people galvanized to go to war. That's what I had the problem with him.
Me too.
Reagan didn't do anything like that.
I also think Bush going into Iraq, the reason they gave to get people behind it was a lie, true. But I think it was sincere, him thinking that was the correct response, even though it wasn't Iraq who did it. He understood.
Forget it wasn't Iraq who did it. The Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction.
I understand.
And they knew it. They knew it. We had, and I made a movie about that too, shock and awe. There were, observers on the ground.
Oh, no,
we had a no-fly zone around, and it was contained like crazy.
I agree. I mean, look, I was not for the Iraq War. But I do think Bush, this guy, he's not a genius. He's from Texas, and he was like, you know what? When they punch you, you punch them back. Doesn't have to be exactly who did it.
Well, then
I'm a big thinker, big picture war. Then figure out where.
Go get Bin Laden then.
No, I understand. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with you on these points.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I wonder if, looking back, if I was too hard because. For example, I could think of two things that Bush did that three, if you count sitting with Michelle Obama, and them seemed to get along well. But he also had the opportunity to pardon Scooter Libby, and he didn't.
No, listen.
Didn't.
I don't.
And he was like his bottom bitch.
Which was the right thing to do.
Exactly. I'm saying.
But this guy we have is pardoning people who beat the crap out of cops.
Exactly. I understand. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a difference,
and then the other thing I love the moment with Bush is that when Obama took office, they had all the ex-presidents there, and Bush stood next to Obama and said, "We want you to succeed."
Yes.
I mean, it's just such a different time.
And Trump did not do that.
He didn't, of course
did not do that.
He still hasn't conceded the election.
Yeah.
Again, these are people who we didn't vote for 20 years ago, and yet when they took over, we just didn't have the worries we have now. It just wasn't where we are. It wasn't at this existential. It was like, okay, when the Democrats are in office, for us personally, for example, how are we affected? Well, the top bracket goes from paying 36% under Republicans to paying 39% under Democrats.
Yeah, no, you pay a little more.
We switched.
You pay a little more.
We've had giant elections over 3%.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So it just wasn't that sort of like you go from here all the way over to,
Yeah.
I mean, you have
that's why it's really scary because, You talk about Bush, but I was, I campaigned like crazy for Al Gore, went all over the country with him. And, I was actually with him the night that the Supreme Court ruling came in, and I was having dinner at this place, and we were working on an op-ed piece that was supposed to be in the New York Times the next day called The Consent of the Governed. And they came down with this ruling, and we're all sitting there watching CNN, and the guy on television says, I'm on the phone. He says, I understand that the vice president is in his residence and he's on the phone talking to his advisors, trying to understand this ruling along with the rest of us. It was like a Truman Show moment because he was on the phone with David Boies and Ron Klain, because basically what the Supreme Court said was, we want to remand this back to the Florida Supreme Court, but there's not enough time because of the December 12th ruling to be able to change and make it one way of counting all the votes. So we can't do it. So Bush is president, and they said that, and I see I'm sitting right next to him, and Gore says all this is he says bullshit. That's all he said, just one word. And his daughter was there, his son Albert was there, and the daughter started crying, hysterical. And he said, it's over. And she started crying, and he went and held her. He gave her a hug. And he said, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And at that moment, I said, wow, we lost a great man that could have been a great president. Because he had the decency and he had the calmness to be able to say that. And then, of course, he conceded right away.
Right. He took one for the team.
He did, conceded right away.
And
think about 20 years jump on climate change. Think about going to war in Iraq. I mean, the things that change when you do things like, and that was 34 votes in Florida.
Well, we don't know how we would have handled 9/11. I mean, Hillary voted for the Iraq War.
Yes. No, I agree. How he would have handled 9/11?
No, we don't know.
No. But I don't think he would have gone to war in Iraq.
I don't think so, but you just don't know.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
I don't think so either, but
the point is, we're at this point now with a guy who's so far off the charts in terms of normal governing that it's frightening.
So how do we get the Democrats so united? Because, you and I can't keep arguing if we're going to ever.
Well, we're trying,
No, it's good to talk, isn't it?
I guess, yeah, it is.
I mean,
it is. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
More information is always better than less information, is how I look at it.
Listen, I had dinner with J.D. Vance years ago over at David Frum's house.
Ran into him.
No, he was invited to dinner. I didn't run in. He was there.
You're just always running into people.
No, I didn't run into him.
Okay.
So I'm having dinner with him, and he had just written this book, Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah.
Which was pretty good.
Ron Howard made it into a movie.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking with him and blah, blah, couldn't be more reasonable. Couldn't be, we didn't agree. I mean, he's what he is.
No, he's a nice guy.
Yeah. Couldn't have been more reasonable. And then he becomes this sycophant, and they all are.
Yes.
All of them.
Oh.
So what am I going to do there? I mean, what are you, this is like, this is insanity.
What you're going to do there is make them hate you less. Their whole policy is based on make them cry their liberal tears. They think they're so fucking superior that they won't break bread with us. Just break the hate. No, you're not going to convince them to go against Trump on an issue. But Trump, famously, is like a guy who sort of follows whatever the last thing he hears. Now, he's surrounded by ass-kissers. The last thing he hears is usually something stupid. He got out of the meeting with Putin, and he said we should get rid of mail-in voting because Putin thinks mail-in voting is why our elections are rigged. Now that's just.
Well, he's always been saying that.
I know,
Trump's been saying that for years.
But the fact that he was quoting Putin on electoral politics.
Well, listen, he sat in Helsinki next to Putin and said, "I don't think he did it."
That's not the point. The point is he just sort of listens to and repeats the last thing he hears. So let's get more people in there who are saying things, because I'm telling you, he didn't object to any time I contradicted him. You know, I said to him, "You're scaring people. They're your people. Why do you want to scare people so
What did he
much?"
say to that?
I don't remember, but it wasn't. I don't. I don't. But it wasn't.
So it was a good conversation.
It wasn't.
It made an impression on you.
Well, did you watch my report on it? I know
No, but I want to know what he said to you.
I don't remember, but
Yeah.
it wasn't all stop, because I would have remembered that, and I didn't.
Okay, from now on, I don't.
I didn't expect it to be.
Yeah.
But just the fact that something gets in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
It may be the best thing in the world, or best you can do, but you know.
Racist, there's a blind spot they can't see.
Yes, of course.
They can't see.
There's
So
a-
how do you discuss,
well,
how do you talk to
There's
that?
also blind spots on the other side with race. You think everything that comes out of the left on race makes sense?
What, like, give me an example.
Anything in Robin DiAngelo, Ta-Nehisi Coates.
What, give me specific.
For example, I mean, he says, or maybe it's Ibram X. Kendi says, I mean, I'm not quoting word for word, but it's very close to word for word. The only solution to past racism is future racism. In other words, being racist in reverse.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
But my point is,
but
that's what a lot of people.
But that's an argument. That's not saying a black person could say, I don't like any white people. That's racist. White person says, I don't like any black people. That's racist. You can't argue with that. How do you argue that? You can't discuss that.
Who's arguing?
Yeah.
What, I mean,
No, I'm saying you can't discuss those things with somebody who's going to say that.
If the issue is Trump and racism, I think it's more nuanced than that. I mean,
I'm not saying him. I'm just saying generally speaking, a racist is somebody you can't really argue with. It's hard.
But I mean, I could show you like many TikToks of what?
I don't know. I know where you're going to go with
No, I know of like young, usually black women saying some variation of, "I just can't deal with white people today," and you can hardly imagine that in reverse. No, I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying.
Well, you can understand
exactly
what is built into a black person's
can.
experience,
Yeah.
why they would say something like that.
Maybe not that person in particular. Maybe
Well, I don't know that person, but
I don't know that person either.
Yeah.
But it could be possible that they're just somebody. Who was it? Thomas Chatterton Williams is on my show a couple of weeks ago and was talking about microaggressions and the idea. I said, It's funny because sometimes it seems like there's more anger now, racially, and yet things were so much worse then. You and I.
Yeah.
It
was
and he
worse
said,
then.
yes, he said there's a interesting human psychological factor where, like, the better things get, the tinier the offense makes people angrier.
That's right. And you also forget where you were, and you forget the progress that's been made.
Or you weren't alive for
because
it.
you're only focusing on the inequity then and there.
And again, to your point before about they don't know anything in the past, like they don't know your show.
Yeah.
They also don't know about the civil rights pioneers who actually endured horrible things.
Died to try to get the right to vote.
So, could it be that a 20-year-old goes out in the world today and has a terrible experience with white people? It could, but I don't think if you're in Los Angeles and you're black and you walk into a Starbucks, they're going to say, "We don't serve your kind here."
No.
No. Okay. So, I don't know what white people out there are doing that you can't deal with today. I'm just saying you could never say that in reverse, and you shouldn't say that in reverse.
What would you say to a white person?
What do you mean?
Don't order that pumpkin spice latte. Get out of here. Whatever that thing is.
Well, it's the season of pumpkin spice. I
It
can't
is
believe
getting there.
I can't believe how fast the time goes. So the movie opens.
The movie opens September 12th.
Okay, so
in theaters around the town, and I wanted it to be in the theaters because you got to watch a comedy with people. You want that shared experience. If it's a comedy or if it's a thriller, horror, you want people to be there and enjoy it with them.
it's
Not sitting at their home, going to the bathroom, getting something to eat or whatever.
You are not the first director
I know.
who's been making this argument.
Yeah.
And it's a valid argument, and it's just really hard.
It's hard.
You're fighting a tsunami.
No, I know. It's very hard.
I mean,
it's very hard.
I don't often get my ass out to the theater either.
Yeah. No.
You know,
I mean, I've only gone a couple of times.
But this one I would.
Oh, good.
This one I would. I cannot wait to see.
I can't wait.
I mean,
you'll like it. There's some good laughs.
What I loved about...
There's some good laughs in it.
Besides what I loved everything about that was in the first one, which is LOL, like ultimate LOL kind of movie comedy, was that there were people who did not understand it was a comedy.
A lot of people at the beginning. They came up to me at the first screening, and they in Dallas we had, and they said, well, I don't understand. Why are you making a movie about a band nobody's ever heard of? And why did you make it? What are you doing? And I felt bad because we got the worst cards. They sign these cards and they give you the thing. The worst cards ever. The only thing I felt good about is I counted 5 different ways they spelled the word movie.
Really?
Yeah. There was M-O-V-I-E.
Yeah.
There was M-O-V-E-Y. There was M-O-V-Y. M-O-V-E-E. And my favorite, M-O-V-E. Move. So
you're saying...
So I'm saying maybe they weren't geniuses. I don't know, but it took a long time for people to catch on to the movie and like it.
I don't think that's an accurate appraisal. What it is was like, and look, it's just going to sound like I'm making fun of half the country, or however many. I'm sorry, but people are nuance impaired. This is a movie that's a mockumentary about a band. You don't have to be a genius to get the satire and the parody of everything about rock and roll that is so parodiable, if that's a word.
Yeah. But we played it close to the bone. But it was satire very close to the bone.
Yes, but I just got to say you're a little fucking dim if you're one of the people
that spells it M-O-V-E.
Maybe
the M-O-V-E person is not going to get it.
You didn't get that this was parody. They took it seriously.
Yeah, I know.
They just
some rock and roll people took it seriously, and they got mad.
Well,
like Steven Tyler was upset, and
really,
and then Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses, and God bless him.
Musicians are.
Ozzy Osbourne didn't love it too much.
They're so talented, but thinking ain't their thing, Rob.
No,
it's not
high on the list.
No.
Well, we try to make fun of that too.
Of course, that's part of why it's so funny. Is you have this built-in.
Yeah.
And the thing is about musicians, especially rock stars, what it is about music that gets to us on such a deep level.
It's on a very emotional level. Yeah.
I remember when I visited Amsterdam and I had a friend who lived there, and I said, "What's it like here?" And he was telling me everything about it. And he said, and I said, "The people are they're polite, but they're not warm." He said, "Right." He said, "They don't get excited about anything except pop stars. Just like everywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
When Michael Jackson was there, they went fucking nuts."
Yeah.
It just gets to us.
It does. It's a very visceral thing.
The people who are the rock stars get to live in this world of their own. And we see it. I could mention a million names, and just who've lived in this bubble of just like, I'm the greatest. I don't have to know anything. I have assistants and everyone's glory. And, that's what you're.
But most rockers did get it eventually. They all got it and they dug it. It was like a staple on the tour bus.
Oh, yeah.
They'd had the thing.
Because
Sting, when the first time I met him, he said, "I've seen this movie 100 times, 50 times. Every time I see it, I don't know if I should laugh or cry." I mean, it's,
because he's smart. And
he is
there's
smart.
millions of smart musicians.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney's in the...
Yeah, he's in the movie, and he's really funny, too.
So who do you have in as far as like the cameo?
Paul McCartney,
Elton
John,
wow,
Garth Brooks. There's Questlove, there's a whole thing where they're trying to find a new drummer because the drummers are always dying,
Right.
They had 12 drummers.
Which is true.
Yeah, it's true. The last drummer, this guy Skippy Scuffleton, he died because he sneezed himself to death. He just couldn't stop sneezing, and he had a fit, and he dropped dead. So we have to get a new drummer, and they put out a word to try to get a new drummer, and they talked to Questlove. They talk to Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers and Lars Ulrich from Metallica,
Oh.
and they all turn them down because they rather stay alive.
Oh, that's
they don't
just
want
fair.
to die. They love them, but they don't want to die.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I had the time of my life. I hope you did.
I had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you.
Okay.
All right, buddy.